Okay, so I was expecting this episode to be good, simply because those who have read the manga have consistently stated how great the contents of this episode would be.
What?
I was not expecting this episode to become the single greatest episode the series has ever known. And that's not me being facetious, there's no hyperbole at play here. I'm being 100% serious when I say this is the pinnacle of the 1,000-Year Blood War and Bleach as a whole. I legitimately haven't been this attentive to the story since Yuhaba invaded the Soul Society and defeated Yamamoto, which happened all the way back in Core 1. The only thing that kinda sucks though is that the episode is, well, just that. It being only about 20 minutes grants it the title of the best episode, but this could have easily been an actual movie. No question. Because even though I thought it was fantastic, it was giving me heavy Burn the Witch vibes. And what I mean by that is I love Burn the Witch, I think it's awesome. But my main issue with that series is we don't spend nearly enough time in its world, and that same problem is echoed in here. Kubo introduces us to the world of the Quincy, and immediately my attention is grabbed, hook, line, and sinker. I want to know more about everything. How differently does it function from the Soul Society? Who were the Quincy with power that were able to challenge Yuhaba at that time? How many different powers exist in this world? I have so many questions. In all honesty, Kubo, if you ever hear this, delay the Hell Arc and give me an extended arc or even just a one-shot about the Quincy's and what they were doing in that time, or an extended look at Bazz B and Jugram's journey before Core 1. I just want more! Let me calm down though, let me relax. Instead of begging for more story, it's high time I delve into the greatness that was delivered. To get it out of the way now, I need to mention the quality of this episode, because it's probably the most solid of the core so far. And I solemnly believe that somewhere in the production of said episode, it was stated that the highest priority was the quality of the art. Some of these shots are almost a one-for-one recreation of Kubo's actual drawings from the manga. It's so close, you wouldn't be crazy for feeling like they either traced it or Kubo himself stepped up to play ball. Nevertheless, I have to give the studio and the team the utmost praise, because the consistent art quality really helped elevate the material to a whole new level, and the actual animation itself was also really good. Jugram and Bazz B's fight wasn't anywhere near the longest fight in the anime. In fact, if you actually count out the length of it, it's probably one of the shortest. But where the animation excelled at in this episode was the character movement and the facial expressions. The team did a stellar job at making you feel exactly what these characters were feeling in the moment, especially at the end, with Bazz B struggling to reach Jugram and keep fighting even though he's got nothing left. It's just great stuff. Now, what's also great are the flashbacks. The flashbacks this core, in my opinion, haven't really wowed me all that much. They've been alright, they've been serviceable. I think the one with Shunsui was pretty good, but more often than not, I'm wishing for them to be over so we can get back to the insane action. But in this case, I don't want to say the opposite is true, but as you can probably tell, that at the very least I enjoyed them a lot. And it wasn't just because of the interesting world that I desperately want to see again. More than that, it was the dynamic and story of Bazz and Jugo and what it did for their characters. I had been waiting to see what Jugram was all about for the longest time. To me, and probably most, he is by far the coolest looking Quincy we've ever seen. Unfortunately though, for the majority of these past few cores, he was basically absent from really participating. I mean, he did break Ichigo's sword and execute some failing Quincy, and he did also fight against Squad Zero for like 2 seconds. But outside of that, and in the grand scheme of the Thousand-Year Blood War, he hasn't really done much, or been explored much as a character. But thankfully, this episode finally does what I've been waiting for this whole time. And, that was not what I was expecting. I knew there had to be a reason for Jugram's unfettered loyalty, and finding out why he is like that was not just heartbreaking, but it just makes you sad for everyone involved. Jugram, for quite a bit of his life, was viewed as less than. Because, unlike other Quincy, he wasn't able to absorb Reishi and use it in the same way basically all other Quincy do. So, to the untrained eye, he appeared to be powerless. That, in combination with the heavily implied physical, mental, and yeah, I don't even want to say it, but if you watched the episode, it's very clear what other type of abuse he received. But all that mixed together very clearly took its toll and pushed him to a point where even the slightest bit of validation would push him wholeheartedly to whoever gave it to him. Bazz, while still being basically the only friend in Jugram's life, also contributed to the mental anguish that plagued him. He was entirely too self-centered, called Jugram by the nickname his uncle gave him, and repeatedly reminded him about his lack of Quincy abilities. Which does suck, but they were both just kids, and one couldn't see just how hurt and in need the other was, which is why, even though they seemed to have a common goal of ending Yuhaba, that they both dedicated their lives to after what he did to their home, as soon as the Quincy King twisted Jugram's perspective on his relationship with Bazz, as well as saying that the boy was needed, well, quite frankly, it was a done deal after that. It also didn't help that when Yuhaba chose Jugram, Bazz delivered a look of pure detest and malice that seared deep into Jugram's soul. He heavily relied on Bazz, and when he was acknowledged instead of the one who was quote-unquote more talented, that jealousy hit hard. Surprisingly too, because for a moment it was almost like Bazz forgot that he wanted to kill Yuhaba. And it also breaks an ego when you learn that the only reason you've come so far is because you've been unknowingly feeding off of the reishi of the person you saw as weaker than you. Meaning, the real talented one was Jugram the whole time. Regardless of his own shortcomings though, you can't help but feel bad for Bazz, cause it's gotta suck to see someone you viewed as a friend to do a 180 and join the guy that destroyed your home and took the life of your mother in front of your very eyes. But after the beautifully done flashbacks, we then transition back to modern day, where Bazz B proceeds to get demolished. I mean, he'd been getting demolished for basically their entire bout, but at the end, the damage is unbearable. He loses an arm and is almost sliced in two before the battle reaches its conclusion, and when it does, he admits Jugo was the superior Quincy the entire time. Jugram, as solemn and somber as ever, then leaves his bloodied and beaten friend to die, and as he's walking away, Bazz's most memorable words echo through his mind. Let's become the strongest Quincy's ever. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, the entire relationship between these two is the definition of unfortunate. It is masterful writing from Kubo though, without a doubt. But with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. I hope that you'll enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody!